This is NVHA 080019, our 294th interview overall. It's June the 27th, 2008, and we are in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, the home of Monti Montillo. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to come and do this interview.
Thank you.
Let's start out with the basics. What is your full name?
My full name is quite a mouthful. It's Albert Rosario Montillo, Jr.
Okay.
The Italian custom was to name your sons after their respective fathers and or grandfathers.
Okay.
My dad's name was Al. My nickname was Ro most of my life, from Rosario.
Yeah.
And when I went in the military is actually when I picked up the nickname Monty.
Okay.
And that came from the name being on your shirt.
Okay.
Over my lifetime, having the nickname Ro was always kind of a hardship, if you will. It was row your boat and those sorts of teasing.
Yeah.
And I had bright red hair and freckles, and I felt like I was a target. So my name has always been kind of a complexity in my life.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, it turns out to be kind of a neat filtering system. If people call here and ask for Albert,
Yeah.
they don't know me. If they ask for Ro, they're a lifetime friend. And if they ask for Monty, it's either work-related or military.
Oh.
So it's a good filtering system.
That was worth coming down here just for that. That's pretty good. And what was your rank at discharge?
Sergeant E5.
Well, Sergeant Montillo, where were you born?
Grenada, Mississippi.
Okay. Okay. Oh, for heaven's sakes, I know somebody that lives down there. In fact, I think one of the Pueblo survivors lives down there as
Really?
well. Yeah.
I lived in Grenada, Mississippi for about 6 weeks.
Okay. Got to know it pretty well, didn't you? Well, now, were you born in a hospital?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yes.
Most people around that age, they were starting to be born in hospitals, and there was kind of a mix-up to that point.
There's an interesting bit of family history here.
Yeah.
My mother and one of her sisters, she was born and raised, her family were all from Mississippi, but during World War II, she and one of her sisters went to Washington, D.C. to work for the government.
Right.
My dad's family had relocated from New York City to Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
and when my dad came home from the war, they met one another.
Ah.
And apparently, there must have been some sort of a tiff between the two of them, and she went running home to Mama. and my dad chased her down there, and they ended up getting married in Mississippi.
Oh,
and they lived there for probably less than a year. And I was born like 9 months and 6 days after their wedding.
Yeah, I have one of those. Yes, sir. Yeah, well, for beginning with, you've got a Yankee and a Southerner getting together.
Well, you had an Italian and a Southern Baptist.
Oh, boy. Now, if they can make it work, anybody can do it. Well, tell me about your mama. First of all, what was her name?
Her name was Mildred Jean Feltz, F-E-L-T-S.
Okay.
Her nickname was Peggy.
Okay.
She had red hair and freckles, about 5'5" and maybe 110 pounds.
Yeah.
Sweet lady, very innocent, very quiet,
Yeah.
rather shy.
Yeah.
That'd be her.
Did she ever work outside of the home? Or?
Later, I guess when I was an early teen or thereabouts,
Okay.
she took a little part-time job working 2 nights a week at
Okay.
the government printing office in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Well, that's right. She was in D.C.
Yeah, that's where we moved back to Maryland.
Okay. Okay. Sounds like a very nice lady.
She was a sweetheart.
Yeah. And she's gone now?
She died at a very young age. She died at age 41.
Oh, my word.
She was stricken with some form of cancer. I think the modesty of the day kind of, I'm not sure what form of cancer it was. She ballooned up like she was pregnant. And the family said that she had stomach cancer, but it could have been ovarian, it could have been breast cancer. It's hard to say.
Wow.
And no one's around to ask.
That's sad. That had to be kind of hard on you. How old were you?
This is while I was in the military.
Oh, wow.
We'll probably get to these circumstances later.
Yeah. Well, tell me about your dad. I think I know his name.
You've got his name. Well, where my mother was fair complexion and freckles and red hair, my dad was dark, Italian, dark hair. His nickname when he was in the Navy was Blackie because he tanned so dark.
Yeah.
My dad was about 6 feet tall, kind of on the slim side. Spoke fluent Italian. He spoke a good broken Yiddish. Most of his life, his entire life, as I know him, he was in retail sales.
Okay.
Early on, he sold clothing, men's clothing, and then he migrated into somehow or another into jewelry.
Huh.
He was a workaholic. He worked a minimum of 6 days a week. On Sundays, he usually went in and did inventory and ordering, that sort of stuff. He's a good guy, but not around much.
Yeah.
Work kind of possessed him.
But were you able to put together any kind of a relationship with him, father-son, or was he just gone too much?
Well, Sundays, he tried to do things with the family.
Yeah.
We'd go for the family rides and automobile and that sort of thing. But in my lifetime, I think we only took one vacation, and that was a real kind of a surprise to me. We took like 2 weeks, and we drove from Washington D.C. to visit my mother's family members. She had sisters in South Carolina, Mississippi, and Cleveland, Ohio. So we made a big circle.
Oh, my.
And we were gone for 2 weeks, which was quite a surprise to all of us. We never rented I never spent a night in a motel. We'd sleep. My dad would drive at night. We didn't have air conditioning, of course.
Yeah.
My brother and I would sleep on the back seat, and he would just drive and drive.
He was a driven man, that's for sure.
I guess so. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Good guy. Good father.
Yeah. I'm glad you can give him that kind of credit, because some kids are pretty resentful of dad working all the time. But
well, the unfortunate thing is he never really got to see me play sports.
Yeah.
He wasn't very well coordinated. I don't even recall maybe playing catch with him more than once or twice.
Right.
And as a youngster, I got involved with the boys club and started playing mostly baseball. I was pretty good baseball player. Unfortunately, I think my dad might have seen me play twice.
Ah.
And I always swore that if I ever had children, that I would make a point of coaching them and that sort of thing. And I followed through with that.
It's good.
Yes.
That's good. You made a positive out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, a part of that, though, may also have been, we've heard so many fellows from that generation say that if they were involved in sports, their parents never came. And it wasn't because they didn't love them, didn't want to be there. It's just that that's the way life was. You want to play sports? Go play sports. And I got to work the farm or whatever.
Yeah.
And I suppose that attitude would have been in him as well.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Yeah. His work ethic was minimum of 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
So he just wasn't available.
But good to parents.
Oh,
You
yes.
can't say anything bad about him.
No, not a thing.
Yeah.
No. Good guy.
Yeah, that's great. Now, you mentioned kids. You had a brother. Did you have any brothers, other brothers or sisters?
I'm the oldest sibling. I have a brother whose name is Dennis Neal Montillo. Okay. Dennis is 4.5 to 5 years younger than myself. And I have a sister, Susan Margaret, who's 16 years my junior. And after my mom passed away, my dad remarried, and I have a half-brother, Frank Anthony.
Okay. Yeah. Were any of them involved in service?
None.
Okay.
No.
You were the one. Yeah. So, the place you remember growing up, obviously not Grenada, was what, D.C. or what?
We lived in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. We lived in Maryland.
Okay.
The town was called Hyattsville.
All right.
Roughly 5 to 6 miles from the Capitol building.
Okay.
2 miles from the Maryland University campus. Nice little, I'd say, middle class community that was built right after the end of World War II.
Okay.
Modest little homes. I can't give you the square footage, but little bitty 3-bedroom rambler.
Yeah.
But all the homes were cookie cutters. Almost all of them were identical. Small little yards and so forth. Yeah.
Living in that situation, did you say to yourself, when I grow up and get my own place, I'm going to have a big house?
I never really knew where I was going to, which path I was going to go down.
Yeah.
I had a vision that I was going to have a bigger home, but
yeah.
it didn't really matter all that much to me.
Hmm. Yeah, I shared a bedroom with my brother, and it was a 2-bedroom house, and it was real small, and I thought, I'm going to get a little bit bigger place than this.
Yeah, well, I did the same, Don. I shared, my brother and I shared a bedroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you remember about Hyattsville as far as what a kid would see of it, things to do?
Well, for us, I could walk to the elementary school.
Yeah.
A fun thing, we used to go home for lunch, many of us. Mm-hmm. And what we would do is we'd have these little challenges to see who could run home the fastest, eat lunch, and be back to school, because then there was a little recreation time after lunch to be outside with the kids. That's a fond memory. And the elementary school had a couple of, I guess, had 2 baseball fields and a basketball court. And you could find me on the baseball field every day during the summer. Yeah. And most afternoons after school, when weather permitting, spring, summer, and fall. Yeah. My dad could whistle, and you could hear it for blocks. And if I heard this whistle, which I can't whistle at all, if I heard this whistle, there was no question, guys, I got to go.
Mom had a little plastic whistle that she blew. I knew the same thing, you know, time to go. Yeah. That's funny. Now, living that close to D.C., did you ever go into town to look around?
Oh, D.C. was so convenient that, yes, we were in D.C. all the time. Yeah. The stores my dad managed were usually in D.C. Okay. So we were in the city a lot. I can't say we took advantage of all the museums and everything as much as we should have. Right. But as going through school, it was a normal practice to go to the different museums, field trip sorts of things. And when I got into high school, it was a frequent thing to go into the district. The drinking age was 18 in D.C. and 21 in Maryland. And we boys tended to run across the D.C. line pretty frequently, yes.
Explains a lot about Congress, doesn't it? Did you ever have a favorite place in D.C.? I mean, when you were a little kid, in all these magnificent buildings, do you have a favorite place that stood out to you?
Griffith Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, Griffith Stadium was the home of the Washington Senators and the Washington Redskins. Okay. As a youngster, I guess age 10, 11, 12 or something like that, there was a program, one of the newspapers was called the Washington Star. They're no longer in business. Right. The Washington Post is still in business. But the Washington Star had a thing called the Knothole Club, which was a program for youngsters to sign up for, and they would, the Senators, you could go to a game if you're a member of the Knothole Club for like 50 cents or something ridiculous. Wow. And I would go to those games either with a buddy or what have you. I did even go to one of them by myself, and which was quite an adventure. My mother had to drive me to a place where there were buses, and the bus would take me to a certain location in the city, and then I had to get off that and catch a streetcar to ride to the stadium. I got there okay, but when I left the stadium, I remember this very clearly. When I left the stadium, I realized I was overwhelmed and I didn't know where the heck I was. And I was standing on a corner crying, and, and a police officer came up to me, and we talked about this, and he put me on the streetcar that I needed to be on, and, and I found my way back to the bus station and so forth. But I really enjoyed watching and listening to baseball on the radio and watching it on television, of course.
Who were your favorite players?
Oh gosh, I used to be able to name all the Washington Senators from like 1957. But they had two pitchers, Camilo Pascual and Pedro Ramos, that they were even used as pinch hitters, and these guys would pitch every other day and stuff, and they were really good ball players. And they had a fellow named Roy Sievers that was magnificent, and Eddie Yost was a third baseman, Pete Runnels was a second baseman, Mickey Vernon and Jim Lemon, and fun time.
Yeah, good. As far as personal heroes when you were a boy, would it be baseball players or?
Yeah, I would think my two favorite baseball players were Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams.
Yeah. Good choices.
Yeah.
And Mickey Mantle is one of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Erskine used to pitch for the Dodgers. He lives in Anderson. Very, very fine gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Real nice guy. So where'd you go to school?
Elementary school, and we had junior high school, which today is more called a middle school.
Okay.
Or in Maryland, and high school was about 3 miles away. It was Northwestern Senior High School.
Did you want to get that? We
No.
put it on pause. Okay.
And I graduated from Northwestern High School in 1965.
Okay.
I attempted to go to the University of Maryland the following year,
Right.
and I just goofed that all up. I wasn't mature enough to go, and I went for a semester, and I started the second semester and realized that I was just wasting my time, and my family didn't have the money to really send me to school, and I was working full-time, and I owned a car, and I had a girlfriend, and my priorities just weren't geared to going to college. I did a couple of years later decided I needed to go back to school, and so I went through started junior college, and during that period of time I was drafted, and when I returned from the military I went back to junior college and finished my associate's degree in 1974. And then a few years later, actually several years later, I decided to go back and achieve my bachelor's degree. And I did it's hard for me to comprehend what I did. I went back to the University of Maryland in 1981, and I needed like 63 credits, which is a little over 2 full years.
Right.
And I did it in 2.5 years going to school part-time.
Wow.
I was going to school 2 and 3 nights a week, Saturdays and Sundays. I was on this campaign to get that bachelor's degree.
Yeah.
And I was successful in doing it.
Good for you.
18 years after I graduated from high school.
But I admire a guy that does it that way more than a kid that just gets out of high school and just goes straight to college. And I mean, it's hard to do that way. It means you're really committed to it.
It was really difficult. My wife and I was married at the time. I lived 50 miles from my office and roughly 65 to 70 miles from the campus. I would leave my home at 5 o'clock in the morning, get to downtown D.C. a little after 6, leave my office around 3:30 in the afternoon, drive to the Maryland campus, catch about a 20-minute nap, attend 2 classes, leave the campus about 9:30 at night, drive 65 to 70 miles home, get home around 11, back up at 4:30, leaving the house at 5.
Wow.
And I really wanted that bachelor's degree and was able to pull it off.
I reckon. Wow. That's amazing. teachers along the way? Even going back to grade school, I mean, were there any kind of teachers that kind of stood out to you?
Many, many. I actually remember all of my elementary school, well, from the third grade on. We moved into this community that I spent most of my young life in the third grade. And my third grade teacher was Miss Russell, and my fourth grade teacher was Mrs. Alexander, and my fifth grade was Mr. Selwyn, and my sixth grade was Mrs. Edmonds. Junior high school, I think, is where I met two teachers that really made a difference for me. There was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Dietz that was a math teacher, and I was in one of these advanced educational programs, and we were being introduced to a thing called modern math. We were the first class to be exposed to modern math. Yeah. and my dad, who was great with numbers, if I ever asked him to help me, he just would shake his head and say, "This is nonsense." So I didn't get much help there. And Mr. Dietz was important to me. And then there was a woman, Mrs. Kraft. She taught a subject that was called core. This was in junior high school, and core was kind of a combination of English and history and civics. It was a combination of subjects. Mrs. Kraft was my seventh grade teacher, and when I finished her that year, I was so thrilled to have her in my past, because she was a tough taskmaster, and much to my chagrin, in the ninth grade, she moved up to the ninth grade. I got her again. And she used to say to me, "Ro, I taught you this 2 years ago," and so forth. So, but she made quite an impression upon me. And later in life, I did a lot of professional business writing, reports and summaries. I can't think of the right way to phrase it at the moment, but when I wrote something that was really particularly good, I would just look up and say, "Mrs. Kraft, God bless you." So.
Yeah, we're afraid to challenge our kids and make them work hard, but it's those teachers that really bring out the best in us. Yes. Yeah. Vietnam was probably easy after Mrs. Kraft.
Mrs. Kraft was a big husky woman, and she had this bellowing voice, and when she needed your attention, she got it.
That's funny. Well, tell me a little bit about baseball. What position did you play?
I don't want to come across with too much bravado in this, but in the little league stuff, your pitchers and shortstops are your better players. And I tended to be the pitcher or the shortstop. Okay. Yeah. As I got older and got into junior high school, I usually played the outfield. Yeah. I was a very good hitter. I have had tremendous eyesight all my life, and I could see the ball clearly. I could see the ball's movement. I could see the rotation of the seams of the ball. So I could hit the darn thing. It wasn't big enough to hit home runs, but I could hit it pretty well. When I got into high school, I continued to play in the outfield. Okay. And that's the highest level I ever played, was in high school. Yeah. My family economics never really permitted me to have the liberty to go any further. It was you needed to make your own money. So.
Memorable games, memorable plays, good or bad?
A suicide squeeze play where I was asked to bunt the ball. Yeah. And it broke the game completely wide open. It was a great play, and lots of special moments. But that was kind of a neat call. Yeah. We had our coach in high school, this gentleman, he had given us a new signal like a few days before, and it's for the suicide squeeze, and it was kind of corny. He said, when I cross my leg and I squeeze sand or dirt out of my fingers, I want you to suicide squeeze on the next pitch. And I was at bat, and I looked over there, and here's Mr. Moran with his leg up, and kind of more like, "Oh my!" Yeah. So I don't know that we ever pulled that play off again that season, but that was,
That's pretty good. Well, if there's such a thing as saving the best for last, every time they pick teams, I must have been the best baseball player. Because you want him? No, I don't want him. And I couldn't see the ball. Graduated high school in '65.
Yes.
Vietnam is just starting to gear up a little bit. Were you given any thought to what might happen to you? I know you were thinking college, but...
Well, I assumed that I'd be drafted.
Yeah.
The lottery wasn't in place in my era. It came about later.
Right.
I registered for the draft, of course, when I turned 18, and since I wasn't going to school full time, I knew that there was a good chance I'd be drafted. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I was drafted in September 1967.
Okay. Ooh. Okay.
I could have appealed it, saying that I was going to college.
Right.
Although it was part-time, but I was also working full-time.
Right.
But I elected not to do that. I felt like I needed to go in the military.
Yeah.
It was an opportunity for me to leave home and get out of some of the mischief that we were prone to get into at home.
So you got into it kind of as a growth experience. That's part of your reasoning for going.
Well, my dad was served in the Navy during World War II. He was on PT boats in the South Pacific.
Oh, really?
Yes. He never talked about his experiences, but I felt like it was an obligation to serve in the military.
Yeah.
I do have if I can back up a bit, I have an interesting baseball
Go for it.
thing with my dad. One evening, there was a knock at our front door, and there was a gentleman standing there, and he looks up, or I look up at him, and I said, "Yes, sir, what can I do for you?" He said, "Is your dad home?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And so I went into the kitchen and said, "Dad, there's a man at the front door." My dad was kind of sharp. He says, "Well, who the heck is it?" You know. And I said, "I don't know, Dad. The man wants to talk to you." So my dad goes to the front door, and lo and behold, it's a guy that he served with on the PT boats.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
And the guy lives about 5 blocks away.
Yeah.
They sat around until midnight.
Yeah.
But they never saw one another again. This gentleman's name was Mr. Smith. Well, Mr. Smith never had children. Mr. Smith came to every one of my baseball games.
No kidding. Wow. Wow. That'd make you feel good.
Yeah. So he kind of kept track of me, and I lost track of him when I guess in high school or thereabouts. But it was always it made an impression on me. Obviously, I'd look in the stands, and there was Mr. Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of guys, when Dad's too busy or Dad's gone or whatever, somebody takes up the slack, and it sounds like he was the fellow that.
Yeah, but he never approached me. Never really struck up a conversation, but he was there.
Wow. Wow, that's really neat.
Yeah.
Wish I'd known what had happened to him.
Yeah, me too.
Wouldn't mind getting his interview. Yeah, we got this close to interviewing a guy who was in on the rescue of John Kennedy.
Oh, really?
And he died about 2 months after I finally found where he was. He wasn't able to do it.
Well, you wouldn't have enjoyed speaking with my father. He had a low opinion of John Kennedy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Kennedy, where were you on November 22nd, 1963?
I was actually in study hall. I remember it vividly. And the announcement came over the PA system, and we were all stunned.
Yeah.
And we were really fearful that something was going to happen between us and Cuba as a result of that. But we thought it was imminent.
Living so close to D.C. too, that'd be a big target area.
Yeah, I guess we always thought it was a center of focus, and I guess in reflection, we had missile sites all around us. Small missile sites, but they were within a couple of miles of kind of surrounding the city. It wasn't an uncommon thing to see missiles.
Huh. Were they in silos, or were they above ground? Or?
They were above ground.
Okay.
And I don't know what kind of armament it was, but
Yeah.
it was these vehicles with about, I'd say, 8 to 10 or 12 missiles attached to them.
Wow. Yeah. And you could just see them. Anybody could drive by and see.
Yeah, they'd be like in a school athletic field.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, make you a little nervous. Okay, now, what's the proper way to survive a nuclear attack?
Yeah, well, that we did the dive under the desk routine and the air raid shelters sorts of stuff, but it wasn't going to work.
Shh, we're not supposed to know that part.
Yeah.
I remember that one. Yeah, there was a guy who used to sell air raid shelters, and he was digging up people's backyards and putting in these tubes that you would have died in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's funny stuff. Oh, did you get into D.C. for any of the funeral? Being that close? Or just watch it on TV?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
I want to say it was just television,
Yeah.
but I don't recall. I'd say no. I didn't go to the funeral,
Right.
and I'm pretty sure it was just television.
Yeah. I tell people that the whole world turned black and white for 3 days because you didn't see anything but that television and just what was there.
Well, coincidentally, when Kennedy was assassinated, I was involved with a school group called Young Life or something like that, and we had a field trip planned almost immediately, and we left. I don't know if it was the same day or the next day, and went up into the mountains for the entire weekend. So for us,
Okay.
I missed a lot of the television
Yeah.
broadcasts and so forth. We were roughing it up in the boonies in West Virginia or something.
Yeah. You were better off.
I guess.
Yeah. There's too many bad images and all that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Any theories on the assassination?
No, not the first.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about Young Life. What was that situation?
Well, that really was a short-term thing for me. That
Yeah.
was a little Christian organization, and it was more my girlfriend was involved in it, so I was involved in it. So I don't have much history with Young Life other than a young lady.
Yeah, well, sex sells even in Christianity. Yeah. Wow. Did you go to church yourself at all, or you just
no.
followed her? Yeah.
No. My mother attempted to have us involved with the Baptist church.
Okay.
My father was born and raised Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, however, something during the war made him not return to church. And my mother, like I said, tried to get my brother and I involved in the Baptist church,
Yeah.
but it didn't work out very well.
Yeah.
And so I don't think I've been to church since I was about 10. And then my experiences in Vietnam, that kind of drifted me away as well.
Yeah. 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 I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but as you were talking about your mom, did you get to know your grandparents any?
My grandmother on my dad's side lived to be 98.
Oh.
And so I got to know my grandmother, Emily Montillo,
Okay.
very, very well. My mother's mother lived in Mississippi, and I think she visited us once, and we visited her once. So I have very little interaction with her in my lifetime. And my grandfathers both died at relatively young ages, so I don't have any recollection of my experience with them either.
Tell me a little bit more about your grandmother Montillo.
She was a feisty gal, sweet, sweet lady, little bitty thing. She was about 4'11" if she was that. loved her family. She had my dad and two daughters. And she did have a child that died either at childbirth or shortly thereafter. And she was just a wonderful person. Loved to cook and loved to be a grandmother, and took care of all of her grandchildren as best she could. And she had quite a few grandchildren.
Now, where did she live?
She lived in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so she was close.
Until her husband, my grandfather, died. He died suddenly at the age of 53 in 1952.
Oh, my word.
And after his death, she moved in with one of my dad's sisters, my Aunt Virginia. And she pretty much lived with my Aunt Virginia and Uncle Tony the balance of her life, on and off. Every once in a while she'd go into an apartment or something, but by and large she lived with them. She lived with us after my mom passed away for a while, and took care of us as well as my Aunt Virginia's children and so forth.
Yeah. Sounds like a pretty special lady.
Yes, she sure was. Yeah, she sure was.
Glad you got to know her that well.
Yeah. And she was very, very sharp until about her 95th or 96th year, and then she started to decline, but she was quite sharp.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to hear the immigration stories, her coming to America and meeting my grandfather in New York. He was also an immigrant, and how they got married. And there's a great story of how they got to Washington, D.C. My grandfather, Anthony Montillo, was a cab driver in New York City, and I suspect he had some bad behavior patterns. He came home one evening and said to Emily, he said, "Emily, grab the children, we're leaving." And she told us years later that you don't talk back to your husband. So she took the children and realized that there was some sort of urgency to this, and threw them in the car and as many clothes as they could gather. And they left New York, never to return.
Oh, gee.
That's how they ended up in Washington, D.C.
One of those things you don't want to know. That's pretty good. Oh, boy. And there was a gap of a couple years there between high school and
in the military.
Military.
Yes.
And I know you tried a little bit of school, but you worked some jobs too. What were some of the jobs you were?
In high school, I worked as the title was a pantry boy at an Italian restaurant. And there was only two of us. There were only two of us that were pantry boys. Yeah. And our job was to carry pizzas out to the carry-out shop, carry ice to the bar, prepare salads, prepare coffee and iced tea, and those sorts of activities. It was pretty demanding, frankly. I'd show up at work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and get off at 10 on school nights. And on weekends, I'd get off at midnight. The good news was they fed us dinner, myself and this other boy. And the ladies that were the cooks there, they were these big, I'll say large black ladies. And they loved me. And they took good care of me. They fed me well.
Now, did you pick up on any of the Italian, being able to speak Italian?
No, my father actually forbid it.
Really?
Yes,
okay.
He forbid it. And I think it was part of the culture. The attitude was, you're not Italian, you're an American.
Good for
it's
him.
disappointing today. Being bilingual, I would think would be wonderful. And I took Spanish in high school and had no luck.
We were talking about jobs.
After I got out of high school, that summer, one of my buddies was working at he got a job moving household furniture. And he found us an opportunity, myself and another fella, or a couple of fellas, the opportunity to work at the same place. So I worked for a company that was like a moving van company that moved household goods, mostly military. It was hard work. We'd go in at 7 in the morning and we may not get back to 8 or 9 at night but it paid extremely well. It paid about $3 an hour, which in 1965 was a pretty good
wage.
level of income. And of course, we were getting time and a half for overtime and that sort of thing. When at the end of that summer is when I made my first attempt to go to college, unsuccessfully. And one of my buddies, his father, was probably one of the most significant people in my lifetime. His name was Fred Miller. Fred Miller, for all intents and purposes, I lived at the Miller's house more often, or as much as I did at my own.
Yeah.
They had a son, Lou, and Lou and I were good buddies. But Mr. Miller kind of herded a bunch of us boys from, I'll say, middle school through high school. He kind of rendered the discipline over us. And he worked for Washington Gas Light Company. He was an appliance serviceman. And he encouraged Lou and myself to go to apply for a job at Washington Gas, telling us that we'd never get rich, but we'd have a good, secure job, and we'd live comfortably.
Yeah. And
so Lou and I both went and applied for jobs, and I applied for a job as a serviceman, an assistant serviceman. Unfortunately, the gentleman that interviewed me told me that I was going to get drafted, and he didn't want to expend the energy to train me, only to have me leave in short order.
Oh, gee.
So I ended up being hired by Washington Gas as a meter reader. And this is April 1966. And I went to work as a meter reader. And in those days, this was a gas distribution company. About 90% of the meters were inside people's homes. And so my job was to knock on the doors and go into people's homes, usually their basements, and read their meter.
Yeah.
And we would read about 220 meters a day. And I had routes, is what we called them. There was 21 routes in a month, 21 business days.
Yeah.
And I have about 7 of the routes would be in the District of Columbia, and 7 in Maryland, and 7 in Virginia. And so you go to the same routes every month on approximately the same day. And it was quite a learning experience in life, because you got exposed to some really awful living conditions.
Yeah.
And then you got the opposite side, some mansions, people's homes that were just beyond comprehension.
Yeah.
Quite a lesson in life. Reading the meters in the slums of the district, or the slums of Alexandria, Virginia. Yeah. Pretty tough places to be.
It would be.
Yeah.
It would be. Do you ever feel threatened?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
But you just kept moving, frankly.
Yeah.
And if you found yourself in a position where you thought somebody was following you or something, you found a way to leave. You might go to your car or whatever, but that didn't happen very often.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any customers that just leaned over your shoulder while you were reading just to make sure you got it right?
I had some customers that were some fruitcakes. One lady, she must have had 6 locks on her front door and an equal number on her basement door. And when I'd walk into the living area, she would relock all those locks on the front door. And then when I'd go to the basement door, she's unlocking all those things. And when I'd go down in the basement, which some of these basements were, whoa, memorable, let's say it that way. She would lock all those daggone locks again. And yeah, some strange people out there.
Yeah.
But it was quite an experience. Being a meter reader enabled me to it navigated my career path in the Army. I became an infantryman. I think all the walking I did as a meter reader gave me the credentials to be an infantryman.
And looking over your shoulder. And dealing with odd customers.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, that would fit pretty good.
Well, I worked for Washington Gas for roughly 18 months before I was drafted.
Yeah.
There, I think it's 15 months, as a matter of fact.
On the moving job,
Yes.
there must have been something that was just a monster to move out of all that stuff you moved.
Yeah, the worst job the worst assignment I ever had, and God bless the fellow that was with me. Two of us boys, we were 17, 18, 19 years old at the time. The gentleman that ran this business gave us the responsibility to drive the trucks and to manage the crews. The crews were predominantly these big, enormous black men.
Yeah.
But he gave us the responsibility to manage these guys. And these guys were mature men. I mean, these guys were 30, 35, 40-year-old men. But one day, this fellow Willie, who was a monster of a man, he and I were given an assignment to move a baby grand piano.
Ooh. Oh.
And we had to take it out of a lady's house and then take it to a church. Just the two of us.
Ooh.
And I don't know how we did it. And I don't know how he didn't get killed. The good news is I was quite strong for my size, but that baby grand piano was a nightmare. That was the worst thing that we ever moved.
How'd you get it out of the house?
We had to put it on its side and navigate it through the door. We couldn't take the legs off. We couldn't disassemble it. It was awful. We really needed like one more or two more men to have done it. We did put a couple dings in it, but we never dropped it. And we took it to the church. The church was easy. We could just basically roll it into the church, but getting it out of the house, and we had steps to go down and that sort of thing. It was nightmarish. Yeah.
Yeah. Who volunteered to go first down the steps?
As I recall, I went first. But I think Willie had the worst part of the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. No, thank you. Yeah.
But that was a fun job and well-paying, as I mentioned, and a neat experience to be able to drive some bigger trucks and tractor trailers occasionally, that sort of stuff. But a lot of responsibility for an 18-year-old boy. But this gentleman trusted us more than he did the other guys. And when I dropped out of college, I went back to work at the moving van company. And then when I got hired by Washington Gas, Mr. Guinan was the name of the fellow that owned the moving company. He was not pleased that I was leaving. He thought the gas company was going to pay me $3.10 an hour, and he was going to match that. But I saw there was really no future there, and no benefits, and just hard work and so forth. And the gas company offered benefits and possibly a career. Not necessarily as a meter reader, but possibly a career. Yeah.
Like you say, good training.
Mm-hmm. The gas company did something nice for those of us that were drafted that I'm not sure that that other businesses do this. But as a severance package for us, they gave us 1 day's pay for every month of active employment. And so I've worked at the gas company for either 15 or 18 months. I'd have to do the math, but it was a nice little check to receive to throw into a savings account as I walked out the door.
I reckon.
So that was a sweet thing.
That's true.
And there was a guarantee that when you return from the military, your job would be awaiting you. So I knew that when I came home from the military, I could go back to work as a meter reader.
Yeah, that's a good thing that companies do. A company where I worked, they did a lot of that. In fact, we had one guy, they changed it since then, but he worked 1 year, did a full career in the military, and came back and said, "Where's my job?" And under the rules of the time, they had to hire him back.
Yeah.
Wow, 30 years. You got the letter, and how'd your parents feel about it?
No surprise.
Yeah.
And I think my dad never really talked about the service, his service. But I think he realized that it would be beneficial to me. It may be dangerous,
Yeah.
but that was that couldn't be foreseen at the time. I was going into the Army. That was a given.
Yeah. Well, you're probably just as much danger moving grand pianos and reading meters
Yeah, maybe.
as you were. So, well, take me down the path. Where did you first go as you went into service?
We were inducted. Well, coincidentally, one of my best friends, he'd just gotten married in July of '67.
Mm-hmm.
We both got notices, and I ended up calling him and telling him, "You better check your mailbox. I got my draft notice today." And Bill went and checked his, and sure enough, he got his.
Mm.
And for him, it was a lot more traumatic in that he had a wife.
Sure.
I had a steady girlfriend, which she wasn't pleased, of course, but there wasn't a marriage involved in this. And Bill and I were inducted the same day. Our service numbers are one digit apart. I'm US 51669-074, and Bill was 073. And we were inducted in Fort Holabird, which is in Baltimore.
Okay.
There's a terrific story at the induction, or prior to the induction. We were all told to strip down to our skivvies, and one black fella, when he stripped down, he had on a bra and panties, and it I can't tell you what it did to the other 50 of us in the room, but it was absolutely hysterical. And so they carted this guy away, and we got inducted into the Army, and we were loaded on buses. And as we were being driven off of the Fort Holabird we're going to the airport. This fellow standing outside the gate waving goodbye to us. So I'm not sure if this was all a sham. But that was a story, a day to remember. But Bill and I both went to Fort Knox for our basic training.
What's Bill's last name?
Woodside.
Woodside. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Fort Knox.
We went to Fort Knox for basic training. We were not in the same platoon. The platoons were organized by and large alphabetically. So most of my guys were L's and M's and N's.
Yeah.
And we did our 2 months or 8 weeks of basic training, 8 or 9 weeks at Fort Knox. And then Bill and I were sent to Fort Ord, California for what's called AIT, which is Advanced Infantry Training.
Okay.
Once again, we were not in the same platoon, but we were traveling together, if you will. And AIT was quite an adventure. We were introduced to some mock Vietnam situations. They had us on one patrol, and I knew I was in trouble when all of a sudden this clear field area, all of a sudden guys are popping up out of spider holes, firing weapons at us. And this is when kind of the reality struck that this isn't going to be fun. What's on my horizon? And something else that I thought was interesting in AIT was they issued us BB guns, and we went through a drill called Quick Kill. I guess in prior wars it was more of the long range target shooting and that sort of thing. They gave us BB guns with little metal disc, maybe the size of a silver dollar, if you will. And they taught us, with you and a buddy, you'd have your BB gun, and your buddy would toss this little disc up in the air, and you'd fire without aiming at the disc. Huh. It was more just an instinctive sort of thing, reflexive, if you will. Okay. And before you know it, you're banging that disc every time. Huh. And then they would they'd build up your confidence. They'd get you to a disc that was about the size of a quarter, then down to something about the size of a dime. And it was remarkable to realize that you could hit something that small that quickly. And it was all, the theme of it was the combat that you're probably going to be exposed to is going to be close.
Yeah.
You're not going to have time to aim. It's just going to be, you need to be reflexive and point and shoot. So that was an interesting exercise.
I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
Quick kill is what that was called.
Yeah, it sounded like Star Wars, Luke let the Force, damn man, it just, yeah. What about basic training itself? I mean, was it kind of tough or just?
Basic training, for me, it wasn't very tough physically because of this meter reading background of mine. Yeah. I was used to being in the weather. I was used to walking and basically running a lot of my routes. So physically, I was in great shape. The guy that was, I'll say, my bunkmate, his name was Norbert Missler from Lima, Ohio. Missler was out of shape. He graduated from college. He spent like 4 years in a fraternity. And that poor guy, for basic training for him was a misery. Doing chin-ups and that sort of thing. His hands were raw with blisters, and he was really soft, where I was quite the opposite. For me, basic wasn't difficult. It was, I tried to maintain a posture of being invisible, not trying to make, not trying to be pointed at all. Yeah. And so I kind of cruised through basic without any real issues, and don't really have anything all that interesting about basic to highlight.
The drill instructor is pretty tough on you?
The drill instructor I had was a magnificent man. His name was Sergeant Lee. He was a big, husky fella. He was in armor, was his background. He'd been to Vietnam. And he impressed upon us the importance of what we were doing. And he was just a great guy. Yeah. You didn't screw with him. You did what he told you, and you were okay. If you didn't listen to what he said, or if you couldn't get your butt out of your rack, you were going to have a bad day.
Yeah. What would a bad day consist of?
That's hard to call, but it could be a lot of running with your rifle over your head. Yeah. That sort of behavior. Yeah. Extra drills.
That could be bad.
Yep.
Yeah. When you were still in training either there or Fort Ord, and you would go into town, how would the townsfolk treat you? I mean, back then the protests weren't quite as much in gear, but I don't know, just how did folks treat you in general?
I really don't have any recollection. I had one leave in basic training and went into, oh gosh, what's the nearest town to Fort Knox?
Shoot.
I'll say it's Fort Knox.
Yeah, I think it is.
I think it is too now. But I don't have much of a recollection of any sort of thing happening there, one way or the other. And AIT, I think I had one leave. We went into a little town called Salinas, California, and more just bar hopping and just goofing off than much of anything else.
From Fort Ord training, how long were you in Fort Ord?
The better part of 2 months. I think it was an 8-week or 9-week program.
Okay. So now we're getting into 68?
Yeah, 68. We're into January 68.
Okay.
And when we got our orders there, much to my friend Bill Woodside and I, much to our surprise, we were sent to Hawaii. Schofield Barracks.
Oh, really?
And what was taking place there was a battalion being assembled to go to Vietnam. And so we were training the battalion we got assigned to. The plan was for it to be deployed en masse to Vietnam. And our routine out of Schofield Barracks is on Monday morning we would take all of our gear, and they would take us up in the mountains and drop us off. And we would slash our ways with machetes up and down the mountains pretending to engage the enemy. And sometimes they would set up ambushes on us and so forth. We do that and come back on Friday, about midday Friday, so we'd spend 4 nights in the field and just hacking up and down these daggone mountains, and we'd get back to the barracks covered in an orange clay.
Yeah.
The ground cover there is this orange that just seeps through everything you own. And our routine was we'd get back to the barracks and we would stand a full field inspection Saturday morning around, I'd say around 11.
Huh.
You had to have every piece of your gear clean as could be. And if you passed inspection, you were given a pass to go into Waikiki, or I just say off the base.
Yeah.
And depending on how much money you had, you could go into Waikiki, or you could go to one of the military beaches.
Okay.
And spend the better part of Saturday and sometimes Saturday night, and come back Sunday. And you had to be back at the barracks, I want to say 6 o'clock Sunday evening.
Okay.
So it was kind of a fun time.
Yeah, it's not bad.
But not having the money to enjoy Waikiki wasn't all that much fun. But we enjoyed it. And for my buddy Bill, it was a nice adventure for him because his wife Sandy came out. They rented an apartment, so Bill was able to live off base.
Yeah.
And they ended up getting a car, and Sandy got a job there while they were there. And so we were on Hawaii on Oahu for about 3+ months. What happens then is there's situations taking place through basic and AIT in Hawaii for me.
Right.
I really wanted to go to OCS, but unfortunately they changed the guidelines that you had to be a college graduate to go to OCS. So I was excluded from that. So I said, okay, I'll become a helicopter pilot. So I submitted my application in basic, and while I was in AIT, I was actually interviewed by a board, if you will, and at the conclusion of the interview, this colonel told me, son, you're going to be a helicopter pilot. Well, in the meantime, I got these orders to go to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And once in Hawaii, I mentioned to the people in personnel that I think I'm supposed to be going to flight school. Well, we get our notice to deploy to Vietnam en masse, but they hold me back. So I'm being held back in order to go to flight school. And so I get reassigned to be a mail clerk in downtown Honolulu temporarily until these orders are finalized. Meanwhile, my buddy Bill and all the rest of the battalion, they go to Vietnam. They go to, I think it was Chu Lai was where their base camp was. Well, I was on I was a mail clerk for about 3 weeks, and I get a notice to go back up to Schofield Barracks, and I'm informed that since I'm in an overseas zone, I can't come back to the continental United States until I fulfill my overseas assignment. Therefore, rejoin your old unit. So that's how I headed to Vietnam.
Oh boy.
And the timing wasn't very good because I was engaged to my high school sweetheart.
Yeah.
We were planning to get married when I came home for this flight training, and I ended up calling her the day before her 21st birthday to tell her the news, and I deployed on her 21st birthday to Vietnam.
Happy birthday.
That was a sad phone call. In those days, making a long distance call from Hawaii to Maryland was quite expensive as well, so that wasn't a very fun day. And once I got to Vietnam, I went to the 90th replacement station, I think is what it was called. And for all intents and purposes, they were just taking guys and shipping them out to units that needed bodies.
Yeah.
So I did not rejoin my old unit. I ended up being assigned to the 9th Infantry Division, which was in the Mekong Delta. And I went after spending a few days at this replacement station, went to the primary base camp, which was a place called Bearcat, which is just a few miles outside of Saigon, and then was shipped to the Riverine area called Dong Tam was our base camp. And that's when I hooked up with, was assigned to Bravo Company, 3rd Battalion, 60th Infantry in Dong Tam.
Question about Schofield Barracks. Could you
Yes.
still see some of the damage from the Pearl Harbor attack?
Oh yeah, we did visit the Arizona Memorial, and I've been back to that twice since then.
Yeah.
But that was an inspiring thing for a young person at the time. And World War II was fresh in the minds of guys my age.
Yeah.
We all grew up with our parents having served in the military, and a lot of the TV shows were based on sorts of the events, and a lot of movies about World War II. So
Yeah.
going to the USS Arizona was something I'll never forget back then.
I haven't seen it yet, but it seems like it would be an awfully sobering place to be.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
So how did you actually get to Vietnam? You flew?
I like to tell people I flew backwards. I was flown on an Air Force transportation plane, which was actually set up like an airliner,
Right.
but all the seats faced to the rear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I like to say I flew backwards to Hawaii. So I did not fly commercially to Vietnam. I flew on an Air Force,
Okay.
but it was set up like a commercial aircraft.
Why would they turn them around backwards?
I think for safety's sake. That's the
Really?
only thing I can think of. Yeah.
Strange.
Yep. And I'll never forget when they opened the door of the aircraft. We landed at Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base, and the heat that came through that doorway
Yeah.
was something I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And then the country has a unique smell to it too, and the smell was rather vivid as well.
Wow. How would you describe the smell?
A combination of a damp wood fire with a lot of manure.
Very fragrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked a fellow one time, and he'd been in Saigon. What are certain things kind of set you off and set off memories? And he says certain smells.
Yeah.
And more than one fellow has said the smell of the place was something you just never really forget.
Yeah.
From Tan Son Nhut, you went where now?
To the 90th replacement station.
9th replacement
And
station.
Then the Bearcat.
Where was this located?
It was called Long Bin, I think.
Okay, it was Long Bay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
you went to
Sure that's
Bearcat.
right. Then to Bearcat, then to Dong Tam.
Okay.
My first day at the barracks is something, once again, I'll never forget.
Yeah.
My platoon was out on a patrol around Dong Tam.
Okay.
The only fellows that were in the barracks were guys that were either coming back from R&R, getting ready to go on R&R, or were healing from being wounded. And myself and a couple other guys were replacements that came in on the same day. And these guys in the barracks, they're all showing their wounds. And I'm thinking to myself, lad, you're not in Kansas. This is about to be the real thing. And I think they were doing it intentionally to upset us, but it got my attention.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad thing, though.
Well, it was a reality check, if you will.
Yeah, it kept you from being reckless and just taking it for granted.
I guess.
Yeah.
That evening, the platoon came back in, and we were introduced to the platoon sergeant and more importantly, the platoon leader. Now, what I didn't tell you was when I was in Hawaii, I carried a radio. It was called a PRC-25, or more commonly the Prick 25.
Okay.
And it weighed about 25 stinking pounds. I carried it for the platoon sergeant, and he was a Korean War veteran. Sergeant Perez was his name. And he used to tell me, he says, Montillo, don't worry about a thing. You stay with me and you're going to survive this thing. Well, when we separated, and then I go to down a different path and end up with the 9th Infantry Division, and that first night I meet Lieutenant Dillon, he looks at me, he says, you're going to carry my radio. Well, he didn't know that I'd been carrying a radio for 3+ months.
Yeah.
And I started intentionally stuttering, telling him that, Lieutenant Dillon, I don't think this is a good idea. and my logic behind this was I was led to believe that if you were carrying a radio, it was like having a bullseye on you.
Yeah.
And the lieutenants were typically targets for the snipers.
Yeah.
And anyone with stripes was a target. They were trying to take out the communications and the command. And so I didn't really want to come into Vietnam on my first day carrying a radio.
Yeah.
So I kind of hoodwinked Lieutenant Dillon, and he just said, you're not carrying a radio. He discovered a few weeks later that the stuttering was a sham. and from time to time, I did end up carrying a radio.
I guess plan B would have been the bra and panties, but I don't know how that would have gone.
A little too late for that.
Talking about getting the last laugh.
But I was assigned to an infantry squad. My squad leader was a fellow by the name of Carl Foley.
Okay.
And Foley was from West Virginia, a country boy. And coincidentally, his first cousin, whose name was John Dean, was also in the squad. And I decided, as soon as I met him, that from that day forward, wherever Foley was, I was going to be on his hip. Foley had been awarded a Silver Star during Tet. And when I arrived in Vietnam, was an era called Mini Tet.
Okay.
And so I was convinced that if I hung around Foley and did what he did, I'd be okay.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my practice for probably the first 2 or 3 weeks. Was I was Foley's shadow, whether he liked it or not.
What'd you actually learn from him?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I really don't know. I can't put a finger on any one thing.
Yeah.
My platoon leader was probably the most significant person in the platoon. He was, and he still lives in Montana. He's born and raised in Montana. He was a hunter. He knew how to manage himself in the wilderness. And so for us, as a platoon, we felt like we were really graced having Lieutenant Dillon as our platoon leader. And Foley was raised in West Virginia and was equally competent with being out in the woods and that sort of thing, if you will. I'm not using jungle terms, but I'm just trying to relate to their childhoods versus mine. In my childhood, BB guns were the big thing and shooting sparrows. And so I kind of just felt like if I could follow these guys around, I could learn something.
Yeah.
In short order, my first engagement, if you want to start going down this path, we were in a place called Rakhine. We were not at the time working off of the Riverine side. We were working out of Dong Tam and so forth. But we got shipped up to Rakhine, which is about, I'm going to give you a guesstimate, I'll say 20 miles south of Saigon. And our first platoon had been out on a patrol, and they'd been ambushed. And it was an up close and personal ambush. And so they were calling for support, and we ended up being trucked from this base camp out to where this ambush occurred. And it was pretty eerie for me. I'm riding in the back of a deuce and a half and I can hear rifle fire, and I know that that's where we're going. And we get to a tree line, and our buddies are pinned down. They're about 100 yards away from us, and there's 3 or 4 guys dead, American boys dead, that I can see. on the ground, and some other ones that are pinned down. They're like behind tombstones, of all things. And the enemy had dug bunkers around this particular tree line where they initiated the ambush. And we're at an opposing tree line about 100 yards away. And Lieutenant Dillon and two other boys assaulted the ambush, the three of them. And then Foley and Dean and I, we assaulted the ambush. And we were going from bunker to bunker, killing the enemy. It was a horrible day. And I guess from that day on, I felt like maybe I don't need Foley anymore. I don't have to be on his hip, because it instilled a lot of confidence in me that I was capable of being an infantryman. But it was a bad day.
Tough day. Tough day.
Yeah.
Appreciate you sharing that detail. I know that isn't easy.
Yeah. A sad thing there was one of the fellows that was killed, he only had like 7 days left in country. So he was so close. That's sad. And another boy that was killed that day was actually a dog handler. And he and the dog were both killed.
Do you remember their names?
The boy that was the short timer, his last name is Marple. And the boy that was the dog handler, his last name is Simpson.
From the time you arrived on scene, how long was it before the situation was subdued and back under control? 15 minutes, an hour?
Don, I have no comprehension.
Yeah.
The events seem like they occurred in slow motion.
Yeah.
We had one gook. We didn't speak highly of our enemy. Although that day was a real surprise to me, because I thought we were going to be engaged with VC. These were North Vietnamese troopers. They were in full uniform and well armed. But we had this one in a bunker that we couldn't get him to surrender, and we kept on throwing hand grenades in, and he kept on throwing them out. And at one time during this thing, one of my buddies hollered for me to hit the ground, and I turned and looked, and there was a rocket being aimed right at me. It was a B-40 rocket, which is like a spear gun with a small rocket on the end of it. And it was aimed right at me, and I hit the ground, and the rocket went zooming over my head.
Wow.
And that's when I was pretty determined I was going to kill this son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And so myself and another boy, we took our hand grenades and pulled the pin, let the handle fly, counted to 3, and chucked him in there, and he was gone. That was the end of that day, the end of that man. But your question was, how long did this take place?
Yeah.
I have no comprehension.
Yeah.
It seemed like everything was going in a slow motion sort of a pace, and it could have been 15 minutes, it could have been 2 hours. I don't have any idea.
I think you just answered the question. Did you stay in that area for a little while, or did you just go right back to base again?
We spent the night back at Rakhine at the base camp.
Okay.
There was a interesting situation that occurred there. Several of us, well, all of us were hot, sweaty, nasty. We had blood on us, and we wanted a bath. Yeah. And there really weren't any facilities, but there was this pond that was lime green. I swear, it was lime green. It was filthy. It was disgusting, but it was water. Yeah. And we could get some of the remnants of the day off of us. Right. And so 2 or 3 of us went into this pond and started bathing. And much to our surprise, a couple of the rear echelon guys that lived at this base came out and told us to get out of their pond. Well, yeah. We got out of the pond, all right. We locked and loaded our weapons and told them that there was no question about it. We were taking a bath in their pond. If they had any problems with it, we were going to kill them. It was into the discussion. They went back. we were pretty clear. Yeah.
M16?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How did the M16 operate for you?
For me, it was a fine weapon.
Okay.
It was an interesting experience that I witnessed in Hawaii, our company commander, the M16 had a reputation, early reputation of being a weapon that jammed.
Wow.
Our company commander took us out one day, and he set up I think they're called jerry cans. He had two of them. And he filled them up with water, and he took an M14 and he fired like 3 rounds into this jerry can. And the rounds went sailing right through the can, and the water goes seeping out. I mean, just perfect holes. And then he takes the M16 and he fires like a quick burst of three rounds. And the jerry can came up off the table about a foot, spun around, and landed on the ground.
Oh,
and he looked at us and said, "Which weapon would you prefer to carry?" So he made a good sale. Yeah. So I had no problems with my M16.
Yeah.
During my brief period, my brief tour, I did carry the M79 grenade launcher. I also carried the machine gun. Those experiences were probably one time each.
Yeah.
I carried the radio occasionally. And I did end up walking point quite a bit. Soon after joining the platoon and kind of getting a feel for these patrols and what we were going to be doing, I've always had kind of I like to be in charge sort of attitude.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I was out in front, I could be in control of what was ahead of me. Yeah. And so there was 4 of us, and I was in the 2nd platoon. There's 4 of us that tended to walk point as teams. And if we were single file, there'd be 2 of us up front. If we were 2 files, it would be the 4 of us would be walking in the point positions. I walk point a lot.
Yeah, I hear that more out of the Vietnam infantry than I do the World War II infantry. World War II infantry, point, nobody wants to walk point. Mm-hmm. But in Vietnam, it seems to be almost a preference because you have better control of the situation.
Well,
I wonder why.
I don't know. I can't answer that.
It's just the terrain and the visibility of things. I don't know.
I don't know. I can't tell you why.
I'll figure that out one of these days if we ask enough fellows, but
yeah.
Not there yet. Yeah. What kind of things did you watch for on point?
You're just looking for anything that was unusual, frankly. And I can't say I ever really discovered anything.
Okay.
I was fortunate
Yeah.
In that I never walked into an ambush. One funny experience was I was walking point one day, and the lieutenant was working me and my buddy our butts off while we were out in the wide open, and he's pointing for us to go from one way to the other, and the rest of the platoon is sitting back in the tree line, and this is going on for roughly hours, it seems. And finally, I made an appeal to, take me off, and so he reluctantly brought us back in and told us to go to the damn back of the platoon. We got ambushed from the rear that day.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, I'm walking by a hooch, and I've got bullets going up like 6 inches from me, going up the side of the wall of this building. I'm going like, damn it, I'm at the back of the platoon.
Well, you can pick them.
that was a funny day.
Oh, man. Wow. What's the general routine? I mean, how often would you go out? How often would you be back at base?
The Riverine operations, and that's what I did predominantly during my tour. We lived on Navy ships. This is when we left the base camps. Okay. We actually were housed on Navy barracks ships.
Right.
They were World War II vintage ships. Attached to the ship was a barge, and there were shacks, sheds built on the barge where we stored our ammunition, and grenades and mines and that sort of claymore mines. And moored along the outside of the barges were all the landing craft and the gunboats that supported us. When we went on a patrol, to answer your question, we would board the landing craft, which they're LCMs or landing craft mediums.
Okay.
if you think of the movie Saving Private Ryan, these are smaller scale boats of that style, where they have a front gate that drops.
Small Higgins boat.
I guess. And we would board those, I'd say roughly at midnight, and we would be taken someplace through the darkness, and around, I'll say around sunrise, we would be beached somewhere. But typically what happened, and this might sound like a bold-faced lie, but I'd say almost every patrol we went on, we got ambushed. And if you can think about the terrain that we were, where we were, it was these remote little villages. There were really no highways. There was no electricity. For all intents and purposes, there was no sound other than maybe sampans that would putter along the riverways. So the enemy could hear us, these big old diesel engines coming for hours.
Oh yeah.
And they could be digging in along the riversides, and they'd build their bunkers out of mud, which became pretty formidable once they dried. It was like concrete. And as we would be going down this body of water, which could be 100 yards wide, which would mean you were just single file, or it could be a larger body of water, of course. And we would be ambushed from the riverbank. And what the Navy would do is they'd swing the landing craft into the ambushes, and we would get off the boats. If you were fortunate, you weren't right at the heart of the ambush. You would be at the one end or the other or beyond it. But if you were unfortunate, you were coming off the boat into the ambush. More often than not, though, what the enemy did was they would hit you and then run.
Yeah.
So it was very seldom we really went toe-to-toe with them in those sorts of conditions. But it was a very frequent exercise that we would be ambushed and then assault the ambush. And once the ambush settled down, we would start a patrol trying to seek out the enemy. And if we were successful in making contact, then we would engage the enemy. If we weren't successful, it wasn't uncommon that for us to go back to the boats and be repositioned somewhere else not too far away.
Right.
Or we'd find what's called a landing zone, and they would bring in helicopters and pick us up and drop us somewhere else. It wasn't uncommon for us to be moved 2 or 3 times in a day. We were, in reflection, we were really cannon fodder. The idea was make contact, and as soon as you make contact, we're going to bring in artillery and air power, and we're going to wipe them out. But we were the pawns being thrown at the enemy, and
the bait.
And we were being moved all the time.
Yeah.
Our patrols, however, never lasted more than 3 days. And the reason for that is the conditions. The conditions were horrid. We were in and out of the water throughout the day. There was swamps, canals, rivers, you name it, and rice paddies. We're in and out of them all day long. And as a consequence, we would develop a condition called immersion foot, which, if you think about your skin just peeling off of your body, and it was primarily your feet because you had on boots and socks and so forth. And if we stayed out in the field for more than 3 days, by and large, the company couldn't walk. You were physically unable to walk. So 3 days was kind of the max. We also, this immersion foot, there was also a bacterial infection that you developed as well. And you would get these sores on your body that, in my case, you could see the bones. There were open wounds, and you could see the bones. There was no seepage or anything. And when we got back to the ship, it was kind of an amusing sort of a scenario, because we'd get back, offload it onto the barge. We'd take our ammunition and such and put it in the sheds. We'd hold onto our weapons, but for all intents and purposes, we'd strip down out on the barge and be hosed down. When we just throw our clothes into a big pile and go on board ship basically naked, with your boots and your rifle, go in and get a shower, and then put on the dress of the day for the next 3 days, because we typically stood down for 3 days.
Yeah.
The dress of the day was boxer shorts and shower shoes. They didn't have any medication for us for these bacterial infections.
Huh.
And the thought was that sun and heat would help heal these wounds, and it tended to. So you see 50 guys or something walking around in boxer shorts and shower shoes. In those days that we were standing down, we would clean our weapons and we clean our ammunition, because obviously all your magazines had gotten wet and stayed that way. Our uniforms, they, for all intents and purposes, they would crumble after all the salt coming in and out of your body, and then after a couple of missions or whatever, they were worthless. They were just rags. So you were always trying to find uniforms. When our clean laundry was delivered to us, it was just thrown in a heap, and there was a mad dive trying to find a pair of pants and a shirt that might fit you. Yeah.
Nothing personal about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was the conditions were really brutal. We lived pretty much like animals, if you will. We didn't take much food with us. Food was heavy. We might take a day's worth of rations.
Yeah.
We carried sea rations. If we were lucky, we got our hands on a new product, which is like today is known as MREs,
Right.
but these were called LRP, Long Range Reconnaissance Patrol
Yeah.
rations, and they were the dry food things, and they were light as a feather, and they were pretty daggone tasty.
Yeah.
But the sea rations was our common food in the field. We used C4, which is an explosive, to heat it. We would we would carry around like a brick of C4. And we'd constantly be tearing off little chunks about an inch square and using it as a heater. You could light it with a match and it would toast up your food in short order.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you eat every day? Would you, would there be any general routine to the eating, or would you just pretty much just kind of snack when you're hungry during those 3 days and eat when you got back?
No, we would eat. We would get helicopter drops
Okay.
of food, which
okay.
sometimes could be really scary if we were in heavy foliage jungle. It's double or triple canopy.
Yeah.
You could hear the helicopter. You couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And they're throwing cases of sea rations down through the trees. And I can say I never saw anyone get hit with a case of sea rations, but it was frightening as the devil to have these things coming out of the trees. But that wasn't uncommon to get resupplied that way.
I'm trying to imagine the death report on that one.
Yeah, that
Your son died bravely under a case of sea rations.
Yeah. But they were heavy to carry, and some of the meals weren't all that popular.
Yeah.
Most of us liked the fruit that was available. They had pears and peaches and fruit cocktail.
Yeah.
I was one of the odd boys because I liked the ham and lima beans, and so I could trade for that with most anyone. Yeah.
Universal recipient.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of relationship did you have with the Navy guys? Was it just, I'm on your boat? I mean, did you make friends with anybody on the boats?
No, we didn't. We didn't. I can't say I know any sailors.
Yeah.
From that era.
Yeah.
I can't say I ever met any.
Yeah.
They were just our escort. And they had a dangerous assignment, admittedly, because we weren't the only ones being ambushed. They were being ambushed as well.
Right.
The landing craft had several M60 machine guns, and we troopers would man 2 of them down in the area where we were being loaded. Mm-hmm. There was 2 machine guns, and I typically would manage one of them. And the reason I did that was I noticed that there was an extra section of steel, and right above below the machine gun. So
Yeah.
for me, I said, well, that's a better position. So I didn't
thinking.
hesitate to grab the machine gun. But the Navy had some specially equipped gunboats as well. They had one that they referred to it as a monitor, which looked like the Civil War monitor, and it was equipped with a flamethrower.
Huh.
And it was used to fire into these ambushes. The guys that were in the bunkers, this, for all intents and purposes, was napalm.
Yeah.
And so they would sweep the riverbank with napalm.
Yeah, when you were describing going in with the LCMs,
Yeah.
I wondered if maybe they made a pass with some of the gunboats first and tried to...
It depended on the configuration of how we were going down this body of water.
Okay.
If it was a wider body of water, then we would have the gunboats would be like on our flanks,
right,
and on our front and rear. But if it was a narrow body of water, they were kind of scattered throughout the convoy.
Okay. Okay. So they couldn't really maneuver much to
No.
help you out.
No.
And I also heard that they like to attack at sundown.
It seemed like almost every evening we would have green tracers coming at us. The enemy's tracers were green, ours were orange.
Huh.
And green tracers were not a good thing.
Yeah.
That made for sleepless nights. You knew the enemy was close. You knew the enemy knew that they knew where you were. So most of the evenings you spent an evening, your nighttime with a buddy, and we had one guy would be awake, one guy would be asleep throughout the night. And it wasn't uncommon to be tossing hand grenades. We rarely fired our M16s because of the muzzle flash would give up your position. So we tended more to toss hand grenades.
I wondered about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't uncommon the next morning to have blood trails not too far from your position. And sometimes, occasionally, there would be a weapon or two that was left behind, but the bodies were gone.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It's eerie.
Yeah.
Eerie. Yeah.
And to know that they'd gotten that close to recover it,
Yeah.
they could just as easily have snuck in on you that quietly.
Yeah. I don't know if this is fact or fiction, but I'm pretty sure that my platoon was overrun several months after I came home. And I've never really talked to any of my buddies about that, but I heard it kind of secondhand. And that couldn't have been a good thing.
No. You ever get close to where you thought you might be overrun?
There was times where I knew that they were really close. Those times where we had blood trails just outside our position and so forth, they were close.
Yeah.
10 yards away or thereabouts, 5 yards.
Yeah, it'd be a pretty helpless feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, they would get so close that we couldn't call in artillery
That's right.
because they'd be dropping it in our own position.
We would, at nighttime, one of the defensive maneuvers was to line up with an artillery battery our position, so that in the event that we were overrun, that they knew where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a crazy scenario happen one night. Our Lieutenant Dillon called for a marking round, is what it was called. And it was for us to visually see. It would explode in the air, and we could visually see the round, which said that they had us. They knew where we were.
Yeah.
Well, we couldn't spot the daggone marking round.
Oops.
So Lieutenant Dillon says, well, "Fellas, get ready, because I'm going to call in a live one."
Yeah.
And we hear this thing coming in, and all of a sudden it goes off, and there's screams. And it landed right next to 2 or 3 of our guys that were on our perimeter.
Ooh.
But it went into the mud, and it went down in the mud and detonated, and these guys got blasted with mud. None of them were wounded.
Wow.
But there was these awful screams, and we just knew that this is not good. We knew that we killed 1 or 2 of our own guys,
Yeah.
but fortunately nobody was wounded at all. But Lieutenant Dillon knew where we were.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll give you a couple other little tidbits. Walking point, another technique that we used was we would use artillery to land in front of us. And so the artillery might be 100 yards in front of me, and I'm maybe 100 yards in front of the platoon. And so as I'm walking with my rifle, I can hear in the background, I can hear this boom. And then the first round was always the scary one, because you'd start counting. You go like 1, 2, 3, and then you'd hear this whistle. And so you knew if you got the 3 and the whistle, then it was going to land in front of you. And you could see it land in front of you.
Yeah.
But occasionally, you get to 3 and there was no whistle.
Uh-oh.
And so it was hit the ground
Yeah.
because it was going to be a short round. And the good news is that didn't really happen very often, but I think some folks are surprised to know that we did use artillery as a means to advance. So that's unusual.
I didn't know that. Yeah, that is new.
Yeah,
I never heard
you
that
kinda get
technique either.
You kind of get yourself in a rhythm of this counting was real important because you'd hear these booms and 1, 2, 3, and the whistle was a good thing. Yeah.
Have you got any idea how far away you were from the artillery, or?
In my example, I'd say like 100 yards.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, I mean,
From the
from
position,
where they were,
fire base.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Some of our, because we were so mobile in the way that we were transported by the Navy, they also transported the artillery groups on some barges,
Okay.
so that
Oh,
they
really?
were within range. We also had Navy ships offshore
Oh.
that could fire from like 12 miles out
Yeah.
and provide support for us as well.
that's what I'm wondering. You say you could hear
Yeah.
the boom, and okay, how far out are you from base?
Well, they had to keep us somewhere so we had support
Right.
in the event that we had some troubles.
Well, yeah, I hadn't thought about the overall picture of it. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Did you ever have to call in air support,
Yeah.
airstrikes?
Yes, yeah. I have a personal experience. I was walking point with another fellow. We'd taken some rifle fire from a little, I'll say a hamlet. I'm not sure what a hamlet really is, but I'll say it was like 4 or 5 hooches. Taking some rifle fire, and my buddy and I, we were pinned down, but it wasn't catastrophic.
Right.
I think we could have managed it. And Lieutenant Dillon hollers up to me. He says, "I'm calling in napalm," and I was like, "This is not good." I was led to believe that you needed to be 500 yards away from napalm,
Yeah.
and I was about maybe 50 yards or 100 yards max from this little hamlet.
Oops.
And I'm hollering back, "Lieutenant Dillon, don't do it, don't do it." And he says, just get your head down, you'll be okay. You know, that's sort of something along those lines. I'm sure the language was a lot different. I know mine was. And it was amazing to watch what happened next, because I could see this jet coming in, and when he released the bomb, the fins came out the back of it, and it just kind of floats down. And this, once again, this is slow motion stuff.
Oh, wow.
Your life is in slow motion. And this damn thing, when it hit the ground, the heat that came off of it was incredible. And he put it right on target. In my situation, what I had to do was I had to pop a smoke grenade to reveal my position.
Yeah.
So that the pilot knew where I was, me and my buddy. So I think I recall popping yellow smoke. And this was all being communicated on the radio to the pilot and stuff. And he dropped it right on target. But I was, if I could have fit in my helmet, I was pretty much inside my helmet. And the eeriest thing happened because a piece of the bomb, about 12 inches square, hit a palm tree right next to me. It hit about, I'm laying on the ground, it hit about 2 feet up, maybe 3 feet off the ground, hit this palm tree square. And this piece of metal was about 1 foot square. It hit the tree, kind of stuck to it, and then slid down the tree. And it's covered in napalm, so it's smoking, and there's some fire associated with it. And it just lands right next to me.
Oh,
and I was like, Lord, that was close. I really regret today that I didn't save a piece of that as a memento, but that was the furthest thing from my mind. And we went into the little hamlet, and it was completely destroyed, and there was nothing there.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody's shooting at you either.
That's right. All was quiet.
Yeah. Quiet is good.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Yeah. In all of this action, for crying out loud, did you get wounded? And
I never was wounded. I had a number of bullets land right next to me.
that's amazing.
Yeah. It is, admittedly.
Yeah.
We had a pretty high casualty rate in our group. We our infantry company, which I think tactically is supposed to be like 144 guys, we never had 100 guys that were healthy. So if we went out on a company patrol, if we went out with 95 guys, that was a big number, and it was due a lot to wounds and such. But we had, well, our company, our battalion was in Vietnam roughly 2.5 years all totaled. Our normal tour was 12 months, so the span of time that Bravo Company, 3rd of the 60th, was in Vietnam was roughly 2.5 years. We had 83 KIAs. I'm going to guesstimate that was a minimum of 10% of the number of guys that served in the company, but it could be closer to 20%. The wounded number is probably 60% of the guys, between booby traps and being wounded by either shrapnel or rifle fire. I'd say the wounds probably 60%.
Now, you never came across a booby trap yourself, as I understand.
No, I did not.
But what kind of traps were they using on our fellows?
Well, the most common thing would be a hand grenade that was put inside of like a sea ration can and tied with monofilament line. And the grenade would be stuck inside the can, the pin would be pulled, and when you walk by and hit the monofilament, you effectively pull the hand grenade out of the can, and the pin had already been pulled, so once the handle flies, it's ready to go. But they would use claymore mines or homemade claymore mines, and they'd put nails and rocks and glass and stuff in it, and they'd find undetonated bombs, and they'd use those. A lot of the roadways were as common practice that overnight they would take a bomb that hadn't been detonated and set it up so that it could be detonated on a roadway and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't have any real experience with booby traps in my personally. The enemy we would set up claymore mines at night for defensive purposes, and we learned a lesson. Sometimes the gooks would come up and they would find the claymores and they'd turn them around facing us, and then they would crawl back away and then raise hell. And the guys would detonate the claymores only to be detonating it back on themselves.
Yeah.
What we started doing was we would take a flare and put it underneath the claymore mine and secure the mine on top of the flare and pull the pin on the flare. And I'll say stick the pin in your pocket. And if Charlie would come out and pick up the claymore, the flare would go off. And Charlie was going to be gone. He's going to be really sorry he was on the claymore mine.
Oops. I am curious about claymore. I've heard quite a bit about claymores. I have some idea what they look like. Would they explode more up or more out? What's the detonation process there?
The claymore mine was and probably still is today about the size of one of the original Polaroid land cameras, if you will. It's almost exactly the same size. So it's probably, I'll say, 12 to 14 inches long and about 6 inches wide, and about probably 3 or 4 inches thick, probably 3 inches thick. It contained like 200, I'll say, double-aught buck shot. And I don't remember technically its capabilities, but it seems like what I recall is it would kill everything within like 50 yards ahead of you and about 3 feet up.
Okay.
And about maybe 100 yards wide, because it would go off forward. There was a concussion issue about being behind it. You had to protect yourself from behind it as well. You wouldn't be killed by the backlash, but you needed to set it in such a way or have your position in such a way that you were protected.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's a good explanation of it. Appreciate that. You had to have had some fellows that you were pretty close to. Who were some of the buddies you had over there?
There was 4 of us that walked point. We all had nicknames. Mine was Monty, or Mont, either one of those. But I had a buddy by the name of Butch. His name is Barry Allen Kopp, and a fellow whose name was Bulldog. His formal name was William Lee McLaughlin. And the 4th guy in our group, his name was Darwin Clough, K-L-O-P-F. We called him Hulk. He was a big burly guy, and unfortunately, Bulldog and Butch were both killed after I came home. They were killed in separate incidents, and that's sad. It's troubled me ever since I returned home. You always have this thinking process that maybe things would have been different if I would have been there, and regrettably I wasn't. So.
And you know it wouldn't have been.
Well, in hindsight, this is 40 years ago, and we all dealt with being killed and stuff was more of a fate issue.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have done something stupid, and a lot of guys, not a lot, but some guys got killed for doing dumb things, for reacting poorly, standing up when they should have been laying down, doing something stupid. But once you were kind of a journeyman infantryman, those things were behind you. In Bulldog's case, he was shot at close range. And in Butch's case, he was, the platoon landed in an air assault, and they no sooner got off the helicopters than they were slaughtered by machine gun fire. And Butch was hit 6 or 7 times. And so in Butch's case, I couldn't have helped. That was just the situation. Everybody got off the helicopters, it was peace and quiet, and as soon as the helicopters lifted, they got hammered. But it's a thought process that never leaves you.
Yeah. The helicopter situation itself, that had to be kind of dicey at times. A helicopter comes in, instantly it becomes a target or draws attention.
The helicopters, we referred to those as slicks, and I don't know where that name came from. And when they came in, they come in like, I'll say a half a dozen. It was called an eagle flight for some reason. And they would land, and 5, 6, or 7 of us would board a helicopter to be taken someplace else with the intent of making contact with the enemy.
Yeah.
My common practice was I would sit in the doorway. There was like a canvas seat in the main compartment of the helicopter, and 3 or 4 guys would sit there, and a couple guys might sit on the deck of the helicopter, but usually one of us sat in each one of the doorways, and I tended to like to be in the doorway. And hold on, I can't imagine doing this today, but holding on with one hand with my rifle in my lap.
Yeah.
And the pilots hated for us to jump off the helicopters. Yeah. It made the helicopters unstable.
Right.
But when you've got incoming fire, that helicopter is a mighty big target.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't uncommon for us boys to be diving for the ground and returning fire once we hit the ground and get off that daggone helicopter. But the pilots weren't pleased.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But it's a pretty crazy scenario because the helicopters had door gunners, and the door gunners are opening up on the fields, and you're jumping off, and you got incoming fire. It's hard to describe.
Did that door gunner ever getting close to our guys?
No, not as a rule, because he's above us.
Yeah.
I mean, the helicopter's hovering, and we guys are hitting the deck.
Yeah.
So
it's not a real stationary platform at that moment. He could be dicing around, and he's firing.
Yeah.
I can see where you could have some problems. Now you mentioned, well, how close are we? You mentioned your mom died while you were in service. Where were you at the time?
Well, what happened, my tour in Vietnam was abbreviated. In August of '68, we were standing on a landing field. We had just entered a place called the U Minh Forest, which was a place that no American troops had ever gone. It was a sanctuary for the VC. And we had just begun operations in there in August, late July, early August of '68. And we were standing on an airstrip someplace, and my lieutenant walked up and tapped me on the shoulder and says, "You're going home." And that's when I learned, he said, "Your mother's real sick, you need to go home." So they flew me back to the ship. The next day or so I was in Saigon or Tan Son Nhut or wherever the heck I was, and like a day later I was back in Maryland.
Wow.
And while I was home, my dad pulled some strings and got me reassigned to stateside. And I ended up going to Fort Meade, Maryland. And my mother died in mid-September of '68. And it seems like, for all intents and purposes, she kind of gave her life for me, is the way that I looked at it.
Yeah. Real cyclone of emotions right there.
Well, if you think about 1968 and how turbulent it was, and then you throw Vietnam in it for me, and then my mother passing away, and it's quite a series of events.
Yay, I'm leaving, but my guys are back there and need me. I'm going home, but Mom is sick. And oh, gee, I don't like the sound of that. Talking about your dad helping you get reassigned. He doesn't impress me as a man who would be very emotional about things, but at the same time, he had been there. It's one thing to go to war yourself, it's another to send your son.
Yeah.
And,
well, there's a statistic that I've read numerous times that and the statistic is only 5% of the military actually sees combat. And I was in that 5% where we were up close and personal with the enemy. And I think my dad could relate to this and realized how dangerous this situation was. And I know I'm a father, and I would hate to see either of my sons involved in anything as horrific as I was involved in. So I'm sure my dad was doing what a dad can do.
oh, it was horrific.
Yeah.
I mean, so what? Guys stayed longer in Vietnam, but they did it in an air-conditioned trailer, a lot of them.
That's right.
You saw more stuff in a compressed period of time than most of the fellows saw it in full term.
There's a lot of truth to that. We had a situation on June the 1st of '68, which was awful. I was in the 2nd platoon, and for some reason we were on a company sweep, and for some reason we were walking point that day. And for some reason the captain pulled us back and put the 3rd platoon out in front. And no sooner had that occurred than 3rd platoon was ambushed awful. There was gooks in the trees. The gooks were in bunkers. The 3rd platoon boys were jumping in the ditches, but the enemy had bunkers at the end of the ditches. And I think we lost 7 guys that day. And it was an awful situation. So yeah, there was some experiences, dangerous stuff.
Yeah. You just feel like out of control all the time. I mean, I have superior army, superior weaponry, and all that kind of stuff, and yet I'm not in control of this situation.
Well, we boys were in this thing. It was a survivor sort of game, if you will.
Yeah.
No, that's the wrong word to use, obviously, but we had to. You wanted to survive this 12 months, and you really created a bond with some of the guys, where they became you depended on each other.
Yeah.
These three guys that I described earlier, the four of us were never separated. And if something happened, we knew that our buddy was right there with us, and there wasn't going to be any question about support.
Who's the other one who survived?
His last name is Clough.
Cloth, okay. Have you kept in contact with
I've
him?
tried to, and other guys have tried to get in touch with him. He's become very reclusive.
Yeah. I don't know why that war had that kind of effect. Was it because of the lack of support at home, or just it was just a chaotic situation? What? I don't quite understand why it had that deep of an effect on our guys as opposed to, say, World War II.
Yeah. I can't.
I don't know that anybody can explain it.
I can't really address it. I've read that the volume of combat that the Vietnam veterans saw was significantly higher than previous wars. And I think it's, when I've described this multiple insertions of being inserted 2 or 3 times in a day, this sort of trying to draw fire, we were so mobile where other militaries before us, they marched, they were taken by trucks and that sort of stuff. So a lot more time elapsed, and they might be engaged, but the engagements weren't nearly as intense, maybe. Maybe they were, but nevertheless, ours were so frequent.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a bigger issue.
Yeah, that's a good way of stating it. I hadn't thought about that. You're right. You would have been in action more often. I mean, someplace like Okinawa, you spent 82 days under fire and had very little rest from that. But most of the European campaigns, you did. You spent time going from here to there, set up position, go to battle. Wow. Did you have any personal heroes while you were over there? It could be a particular person, or maybe a guy like, like the medics or helicopter pilots or something like that.
This Lieutenant Dillon was I'd say he was my hero.
Yeah.
And I just thought that he really had his act together as a platoon leader. The entire platoon just had immense confidence in this guy. And it was a sad day when he rotated out. The lieutenants typically had like a 6-month assignment, and then they'd be moved somewhere else.
Right.
It was a sad day when Lieutenant Dillon rotated out.
I can imagine. What was his first name?
Dave. David.
David Dillon?
Dillon,
Okay.
yes.
Huh. Have you talked to him since?
I have. This is going to go down a different path.
Sure.
In 1996, I got a phone call out of the blue, and I answered the phone, and this guy says, "Is this Monty?" And I was like, "Yeah, who's this?" And this guy says, "My name's John Sperry." And I don't know John Sperry. He says, "Were you in Bravo Company?" And I was like, "Yeah, I sure was." Well, John he became, after that June 1st incident, he became the platoon sergeant for the 3rd Platoon. He was a squad leader of the 3rd Platoon that day.
Okay.
But John took it upon himself to try to locate as many guys as he could from Bravo Company. And what he was doing was he'd find a guy, and then he'd ask the guys to send him a copy of their orders that were related to Bravo Company, and then John would start hound dogging, trying to find guys. Well, he found me in 1996, and John has continued to do that, and John has found like 340 of us.
Wow.
And John got me to meet him and some other fellows in Arlington, Virginia, one year for Veterans Day. John lives in upstate New York, and I reluctantly went. I had no issues about, we were going to go to the wall and place a wreath. I had no issues about the wall because I worked just blocks from the wall, and from the day it was dedicated, I would go down there regularly. But anyway, I met John in '96, and we've developed a great friendship since then. John and I have hosted 2 reunions. Where John and I, I'll say, co-chaired doing this. We had our first reunion in 2003 here in Mount Pleasant, and our second reunion was in 2006 in Branson, Missouri. And this year, I'm coordinating the reunion, and we're going back to Branson. I've kind of gone long-winded on this, but through John's efforts, he located Lieutenant Dillon. And so I wrote some letters to some of the guys that were in 2nd Platoon. And Lieutenant Dillon ended up calling me. And it was kind of a fun conversation because he's like, Monty, he says, I can't place you. I can't place you. And we're talking along. And so we end up finishing the conversation. And he calls me like a week later. He says, I got you. And what he had done was he had gone and he admitted to me that he had like a Foot Locker that he hadn't opened in 30 years. And he went into the Foot Locker and he pulled out, he had a bunch of slides. And he looked at them, and sure enough, there was a photograph of me coming up out of a swamp with a big silly smile. And he says, I got you. And we've talked a couple times since. I've tried to encourage him to join us at the reunion because I'd love to see him. Haven't been successful with that. In the 2003, the first reunion, something occurred prior to the reunion that was significant for me. I came home one day and there was a message on the phone, and I listened to the message, and it's this raspy voice, and it's like, Monty, this is Hardcore. How you doing, you old son of a bitch? Well, Hardcore was the nickname we gave to our platoon sergeant.
Yeah.
And he was calling me because he'd gotten his invitation to come to this reunion.
Yeah.
And we've been close ever since. I mean, he's not been in good health, but he made the Army a career, and he's a good guy. But he came, and he really had a good time here.
Well, it's amazing you can get that many fellows pulled together like that.
Well, the head count for the 2003 reunion, we had approximately 45 troopers come.
Wow.
With about 110 people,
Right.
all total. The reunion in 2006, we had roughly 70 troopers come, and more like 150 people. And this one so far, I've only got 60 people that have. That's 60 people total.
Right.
That's approximately, I'd say, 35 troopers that have sent me registration dues. I'm afraid the economy right now is and the price of gasoline and so forth is making some guys unable to do this.
Right.
But we've had some wonderful things occur at these reunions. At the 2003 reunion, a fellow that lost the lower part of his leg that was wounded and actually drowning because he was, for all intents and purposes, paralyzed.
Oh, jeez.
Another trooper, a big old black boy from Myrtle Beach, his nickname is Bubba. Bubba ran out under the ambush, grabbed Charlie, threw him over his shoulder, and ran him back into the tree line, saved his life. And Charlie had he had the opportunity to thank Bubba, which was pretty emotional for all of us.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And we had an event in 2006 which was equally as emotional. There was a fellow that I didn't know this man, and when he showed up, he was walking with a cane. He was hunched over. He looked like a beaten man, and I come to discover that he was one of our platoon leaders in the early part, in early '67. And I think I've got the facts straight on this. On one of the first times that they went out on a mission, they were on a helicopter, being lifted in by helicopters. They go into land and they get ambushed, and this lieutenant gets severely wounded, and he's medevaced. And when he awakens, he's in like an aid station, and he looks over and he sees two guys that weren't in the platoon but were in our company. And he looks at them, he says, "Where is everyone?" And their reply is, "Sir, they're not here." And then he passed out. The next thing he knows, he wakes up, he's in Japan. Well, he translated that, "Sir, they're not here," into that they were all killed. And when he got to Branson and joined us, it was when he discovered he was the most seriously wounded in that day, and no one was killed. But for 38 years, he had been carrying around this guilt trip that he thought he was responsible. He talked to us. He talked to us on our last night and told us the story. And he admitted that for the last 38 years, he was burdened with the belief that he was responsible for flying his guys into a total loss. I mean, there's ways you can condemn him and say that he could have checked the wall and he could have done other things, but that's what he believed. But the reunion relieved him of that. And it was interesting to see his posture. When he walked up to the microphone on our last night and told us the story, his shoulders were back, he was walking erect, he still had his cane, but he was a different man. He had confidence.
A lot of healing.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
So, anyway, we've got our third reunion scheduled for this October, and we'll be there.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Keep it going. Now, before we move on to anything else, is there anything else about Vietnam that you'd like to include?
She was. Don, I don't think there's much more that I can
You've given us a lot.
that I can highlight or talk about. I hope this doesn't come across as a lot of bravado, because what I will admit is from the day I arrived in country to the day I left, I was afraid. I was really afraid. The nighttime, when it got dark, it got scary. And so any bravado that I might have exhibited, kick it to the curb. I was afraid.
No, not bravado, it's truth. And it's truth that needs to be heard and understood. And you can't really understand it if you weren't there, but you're sure not going to understand it if you don't hear it either. When you got back, you were assigned to Fort Meade. What kind of duties were you doing there?
Well, this is rather hilarious. When I got assigned to Fort Meade, I was assigned to a howitzer unit. And when I walked into the orderly room, here I am, I'm infantry.
Yeah.
The first sergeant says, he looks at me, he looks at my MOS, which is my military occupation. He says, "What in the hell are you doing here?" And I was like, "Top," which is a nickname for a first sergeant. I said,
Right.
"Top, I have no idea." I said, "Personnel sent me here, I'm yours." And so he says, and he's ranting. I was like, "Top, this is where they assigned me." Well, the good news for me, he's looking at my documents, and he spots my IQ, which I had no idea was contained in some of these documents. And he said something to me. He says, "Do you know what your IQ is?" I said, "No, I have no idea." So he said, "Can you type?" Well, I couldn't type, but I knew the right answer. I told him I could type like nobody's business. And he said,
You do have a high IQ.
he said, "Well, it's your lucky day." He says, "These two boys," and these were orderly room clerks. He said, "They're both getting out of the Army in like the next 6 weeks or something."
Yeah.
He said, "I'm going to have them train you, and so you're going to become the orderly room clerk." And I was like, "I can handle this." Well, I was trained to be the orderly room clerk, and for all intents and purposes, the only persons I only reported to two people: the captain and the first sergeant. And the captain was a special forces guy who'd been to Vietnam. He and I were the only two fellows in the entire howitzer company, or battery as it's called, forgive me, the howitzer battery, that were entitled to wear this award, which is called a Combat Infantryman's Badge. And so Captain Littleton was this guy's name. He took me under his wing, and he got me promoted to a buck sergeant almost overnight, which made life easier for me.
Yeah.
And he permitted me to live at home, which I was single, which I should have been living in the barracks. And,
Yeah.
and anyway, I became like the Radar O'Reilly, if you will, of this howitzer unit for the balance of my time in the Army. And it was great duty,
Yeah.
absolutely great duty.
I can imagine.
I had no duty to. I did all the assignments. I never pulled any KP and never did any that sort of nonsense, and so it was good duty.
Yeah, I've heard fellows say that guys who earn silver stars is saying that CIB is more important to them than anything
Yeah,
they got.
and I would say that's pretty much the belief amongst the Army.
So how much longer were you in service before you got out?
I was able to get out early for going back to college.
Okay.
And I got out of the Army in June of '69.
Okay.
So I like to tell people I was on active duty for 20. I was on active duty for 20 months. And so when I left Fort Meade, I went back to roughly the Hyattsville area, and I went to a junior college.
Okay.
And I went back to work at the gas company at Washington Gas. The good news for me was when I went back to reapply for my old job, the guy in personnel that I was meeting with, I told him that I never wanted to walk another day in my life in the rain, and therefore I didn't want to come back as a meter reader.
Yeah.
Well, luckily for me, there was a clerical function that was open that was very similar to what I had done at Fort Meade. And so I fell into that job for about a year and a half or so. And that was a great experience for me. But while I was in that job, I was looking around and realized that I could be doing this for the next 30 years, and just decided that I was too smart for this. So I went off on a tangent and went to a computer learning school at night. I kind of stalled my community college thing, went to this computer learning thing, and was able to get myself into the information systems department at Washington Gas. And then I went back to junior college and so forth. The good news for me was I entered the information systems department in 1971 as a programmer, and I retired from Washington Gas in 1996, and I had maybe the top leadership position in information systems.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I think the Peter principle was the issue where I got promoted to a level of incompetence, but it was a great experience. I did some interesting things in that department.
Yeah. I would have imagined that if you'd gone back as a meter reader, that it would have really preyed on you, because having been in combat, you're going back into situations that are in some ways similar. Dangerous situations, odd people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would have worked at all.
You're probably right.
Not just the rain or the walking, that it would have been, psychologically, it would have been kind of edgy for you.
Yep.
Yeah. How'd people treat you when you got back? I mean,
It was a non-issue.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Being a veteran, it was something you didn't really talk about.
Yeah.
It was rarely spoken to. I had an interesting thing occur. I'd been working with a couple of guys for probably 25 years. One was the chief financial officer of the company. This is later in my career.
Right.
And the other was like his right-hand man. And we flew up to Boston for a meeting, and then we left Boston and flew to New York City to be on Wall Street for something. And when we were in Boston, the plane was being de-iced. And we that evening were in Manhattan having dinner, and these two guys they're just yakking at each other about how frightened they were on this aircraft being de-iced. And they look at me and they said, "Monty, what did you do? You know, what were you thinking? I said, this was Fred and Mike, and I said, guys, I took a nap. And they're like, you did what? I said, fellas, I've flown sitting in the doorway of a helicopter with incoming rifle fire coming over my shoulder. I said, flying in a commercial aircraft is kind of a piece of cake. And these two guys looked at me with their mouths open. They're like, you did what? And they've known me for 25 years.
Yeah?
So it was a non-topic.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Interesting.
it's also hard to relate to people as well. There's a unique thing about having been in this close arms combat thing that you can't, other people can't really associate with what you've encountered. And as a consequence, unless you meet someone that you know was an infantryman, you rarely have anything really to talk about.
Yeah. And I'm surprised that the fellows that open up for us. I don't know what we're doing. I guess maybe because we really are interested in hearing it and know that we can't possibly be in that situation. Yeah. You mentioned the girlfriend, fiance.
Yes. Yeah.
How was that working at that point?
When I got home, I was a different person.
Yeah.
And we tried to make a go of it for about a month. And we both realized, it was pretty much a mutual thing, that this wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
You know, I was a different guy. And so Jeannie and I split up.
Yeah.
And she got married about 6 months later to a guy that she was working with, and they're still married today, and they have 3 children, and I'm happy for her.
Good.
Yeah, and it was good for me.
Yeah.
I was not in a very good frame of mind to be around for a long time.
Even if she'd been the right person, it would have been the wrong time, and it would have squandered the. It's like college. You weren't ready for college yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bill, I'm going to say
Bill Woodside?
Woodside. What happened to him?
Bill today lives in the Cincinnati area.
Oh yeah.
He's been married several times. He's living with a gal, and they seem to be very, very, very happy.
Yeah.
And he's doing okay. Yeah.
What was his experience over there? Similar to yours, or?
Probably similar. We really never have sat down and talked about it. We visited with each other a couple of times.
Yeah.
But we don't really talk about it.
Yeah. Cincinnati's close. We could interview him if you'd be interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I know you're married.
Yes.
What is your wife's name?
My wife's name is Ramona,
Okay.
and it's spelled different. It's R-O-M-O-N-A.
Okay. And maiden name?
Maiden name is Morris.
Morris.
Yes.
How'd you meet her?
We met at a golf course. I have been an avid golfer. I've kind of recently set the clubs aside, but she was working at the golf course, and I met her there. And yes, she has 2 children by a previous marriage.
Mm-hmm.
She's got a son and daughter-in-law and 2 grandchildren, and they live in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah.
And she has a daughter, Stephanie, who lives in the Denver, Colorado area.
Okay.
And I have 2 sons by my first marriage.
Okay.
Ramona is my second marriage.
All right.
And my 2 sons are Stephen Matthew, he's 32, and Michael Albert, and Mikey is 25.
Yeah.
And Matt, the older boy, he's in the Navy. He's been in the Navy for 12 or 13 years.
Wow.
He's in personnel, and he's currently assigned to a unit in Orlando, Florida. I'm about to become a grandfather. He and his girlfriend, they're expecting their first child in actually next month.
Wow.
And my younger son, Mike, currently lives in Salisbury, Maryland, He graduated from Salisbury University this past December, which was a big event for us.
Yeah.
And both the boys are doing well.
Yeah. So how long did the first marriage last?
Roughly 15 years.
15 years.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And when did you and Ramona get married?
We lived together for a period of time,
Yeah.
and we got married prior to my formally retiring.
Oh, okay.
We got married in December of '96,
Okay.
and I retired. I fell into an interesting, really a great set of circumstances. Washington Gas had never had a incentive retirement program, and they haven't had one since. But in 1996, they offered managers and above who had 30 years of service an incentive to retire. Well, I started to work as a meter reader in 1966, and they bridged my military time.
Ah.
So in 1996, I was eligible.
Ah.
And I elected to take the incentive package and announced that I was going to retire at the old age of 49. And it was kind of an amusing set of circumstances because for all intents and purposes, I was reporting to the chief executive officer of the company. And he was not amused that I was retiring. But we were in the process of hiring a person to take over the information systems area anyway. And I helped with the interview process there. And once I formally retired, the company hired me back as a consultant. And I ended up managing the larger portion of the year 2000 project for the corporation. So I was consulting for the next 3+ years.
Yeah.
And it was rigorous. My days were 6 and 7 days a week, probably 70 hours minimum.
Yeah.
Was kind of the process.
Hard work.
And so when I finally decided I was really pretty much burnt out after the year 2000 occurred, and I finally threw up my flag and said I'm done.
Yeah.
And I left the world of employment in February of 2000 and haven't been back to it.
Haven't missed it, have you?
I did it first. When the highlight of your day is waiting for the mail to be delivered, you kind of think that you're underutilizing yourself. But I would reflect. I'd start having these periods where I'd say I ought to go back to consulting or something and do something productive, and then I would slap myself a couple of times and realize I don't want to get back into that pace of life.
No.
And so I really haven't missed it.
Yeah. You've had interesting achievements in your life. I mean, what would you consider some of the highlights of things that you've done in your life that you're really proud of, besides a suicide squeeze? I mean, that was pretty big.
A couple of the business systems, business solutions that we did at Washington Gas were pretty impressive at the time. In 1974, we installed an entirely new billing system. The company has over 1 million customers, and we have to bill everybody once a month and so forth. And then a couple of years later, I was project leader of a project for our service work, so that if you called the company, we could automatically take all your information and automatically dispatch it to a serviceman in the field, collect all the information electronically. This was all state-of-the-art stuff.
Yeah.
And I was in charge of this project, and I was able to be in charge of several other projects along my career path that were equally interesting.
Those are golden years in that field.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah. A lot of exciting things happening.
It was true programming, and it was a lot of fun. I never didn't look forward to going to work. It was interesting every day. Of course, achievements. My 2 sons are probably the. I need to recover from this one, but those boys they're it. They're really all that's important. I've made 3 hole-in-ones.
Whoa!
Yeah, that's kind of those things are mindless. You hit the ball, you're aiming at a target, and if the thing happens to go in the hole, yeah.
It's like the BB gun, you just hit it, it goes in the hole.
Yeah.
After a while, it becomes routine.
Yeah.
Well, you rank the boys above the holes in one. That's pretty good.
For sure.
They got to feel good about that.
Well, I was able to do something that my dad was unable to do. I was able to coach my boys through their youth sports. As long as they were interested in playing, I was there for them. Right. And I was either the coach or the assistant coach from T-ball on up. So I was supportive there. The boys never really had that much of an interest in sports. They tried. Yeah. But at least I gave them a chance and was able to be with them, which was good stuff.
Didn't have to wait for Mr. Smith to show up.
That's right.
Yeah, that was good. That was very good.
Graduating from college for me was a big deal. I was the first Montillo to graduate from high school, and I was obviously the first Montillo to graduate from college. Yeah. That was a big deal for me. I had no desire to pursue anything higher than a bachelor's degree, though. I wanted that BS on my resume, and so.
You're already doing the work you wanted to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
But having the diploma made a difference for my career advancement as well. Yeah. So that was a big deal.
Anything you'd like to do, if you had all the time, money, health, and.
Well, I'm doing something currently that is amazing. About 4.5 years ago, I was asked if I'd be interested in working as a volunteer at a rehabilitation center for raptors. And I thought, hey, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah. But I don't have any background with veterinary medicine, and no background with medicine whatsoever. Yeah. Chemistry was beyond me. Biology was beyond me. But I work at a rehabilitation center called the Center for Birds of Prey. It's about 10 miles from here. We work exclusively with raptors. Yeah. And so my normal day at the clinic, it's not uncommon for me to hold a bald eagle. Wow. Now, I like to tell people that there's a finite number of people on the planet that can say they've ever held a bald eagle.
That's right.
And you're looking at one. Yeah.
That's cool. That's really neat.
But we get in at the clinic, we get about 360 birds a year, roughly one a day. Yeah. And we have red-tailed hawks and red-shouldered hawks and Cooper's hawks and osprey and vultures and bald eagles and lots of owls. And so I get to handle all of those birds.
That's pretty cool.
And it's really neat when you've been with a particular bird through the entire rehabilitation process, and then you're able to release them. It's pretty emotional.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Kind of special. Yeah. So that's one thing that keeps me pretty busy.
Yeah. Well, we always give our veterans a chance to say a few words for posterity. You got any words of wisdom or personal philosophy that kind of get you by in life?
Keep your head down.
That's good.
That's about it. I don't really have. I like to tell my boys when I close conversations with them to don't forget to think before the emphasis is think before you do something. Yeah. And that's kind of a closing remark to them whenever I talk to them.
Yeah, that's pretty good advice.
Okay.
Sergeant Montillo, I want to thank you for this interview. Thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you.